So I'll start by saying congratulations and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. A nomination to Broadcom Masters is a huge honor. We are very glad that you have taken the next step in the Broadcom Masters process by opening your application. I'm Allie Stiefel, Program Manager for the Broadcom Masters, and I'm here with my colleague, Erin Cummins.
Hello.
We are responsible for the Broadcom Masters program, and you will receive many emails from us throughout the application process. Today, we are going to give you an overview of the Broadcom Masters program, what it is, and how it works. Then we'll take some questions at the end. This session is being recorded so that other students who cannot join us today also have this information available to them. This is also the first in a series of webinars about many topics relating to this competition. In coming weeks, we'll talk about prizes, tips from former finalists, the application questions, and more.
We want to show you that the application process is not scary and can even be fun. We're always here to answer your questions. Email masters@societyforscience.org at any time. Also, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The judges do not see your questions, just Allie and I, so don't worry about trying to impress us. In this webinar, we won't be discussing prizes or the finals week competition, but I encourage you to check out our FAQ page online. Watch the highlights video from 2016, which is on YouTube if you type in Broadcom Masters Highlights Video 2016. Ask a parent to follow us on Facebook to learn more about it. If you have questions today, feel free to type them in the live chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. Allie and I will answer a few questions at the very end.
So we will dive right in. Broadcom Masters is a program of the Society for Science in the Public, which is the organization that Erin and I work for. The Society for Science in the Public is a nonprofit organization that promotes the understanding and appreciation of science and the vital role it plays in human advancement. The Society does this in two main ways: through our magazine, Science News, and through our science competitions. The Society for Science in the Public runs 3 distinguished science and engineering competitions. The first is the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair, which is the world's largest international pre-college science competition and is open to high school students. Our second competition is the Regeneron Science Talent Search, the nation's oldest and most prestigious science and math competition for high school seniors. Last but not least, we have the Broadcom Masters competition for middle school students like you. And that's what we're here to talk about today because you've been nominated.
The Broadcom Masters competition is made possible by our friends and sponsor, the Broadcom Foundation. The Broadcom Foundation empowers young people to be STEM literate and college and career ready by creating multiple pathways and equitable access to achieve the 21st century skills they need to succeed as engineers, scientists, and innovators of the future.
So a little more about Broadcom Masters specifically. Broadcom Masters stands for Math, Applied Science, Technology, and Engineering for Rising Stars. It is the premier national science fair-based competition for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students in the United States. In order to qualify for the Masters, a student must first place within the top 10% in one of our affiliated science fairs. That's the first step, and I'm guessing you've already achieved it if you found this webinar. We'll talk about the other steps in the process later. In the end, 30 Broadcom Masters finalists have the opportunity to spend a week in Washington, D.C., showcasing their research projects and competing as teams in hands-on STEM activities for the chance to win big prizes. This is a huge celebration of science, and the best part, it's free.
So let's talk about how you become a Broadcom Masters finalist. The first thing that you have to do in order to be considered for the Broadcom Masters is to do a science or engineering project. Check, you guys already did that. You then must enter your project into a society-affiliated science and engineering fair. Check. The next step is to receive a Broadcom Masters nomination by placing in the top 10% of projects at the fair. Watching have already done. Congratulations. Step. is to complete the online application by June 14th, 2017 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. By watching this video, we're assuming that you've already opened an application, but if you haven't, you can do so by going to broadcommasters.review, and we'll be posting the link to that in the description of this video later. Once you've applied, you will be in the running to become one of the top 300 masters. The judges then select 30 finalists to come to Washington, D.C. to compete in October.
So that's a lot of information, and we're going to break it down a little bit step by step so that you have a better understanding of the process. First, what does it mean to be a nominee? Broadcom Masters nominee is a huge honor. Only 10% of science fair projects in the United States receive this distinction. So again, congratulations. We can't say it enough. This is very, very special. When you receive your nomination, you should have received a certificate and a packet full of information about the program at your science fair. This packet will tell you a little bit more about how to apply. Nominee, you also get bragging rights. If you open your application, you should see the link to claim your cool digital stickers in the upper right-hand corner. Every student who submits an application is entered in prizes like Raspberry Pis, iPod Nanos, science books, backpacks, and more. We give away new and different prizes every year. Also, as a nominee, our application process can be fun. It helps you think more about your project in ways you might not have before, practice your science writing and other skills for the future. So this is a great developmental activity that we think will be really helpful as you do more science projects in the future. And then lastly, of course, as a nominee, you have the honor of access to the online application. So this is just for you, and you could win some of the top awards in the country for students your age doing awesome real research.
To be considered for the competition, a nominee must choose to continue by completing our online application, which is due on June 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is totally free to apply. There's no charge whatsoever. The application asks about your project and your interests, as well as your critical thinking skills. The application might seem overwhelming, but we've created resources to help you through the application process. We've created videos to walk you through each section of the application. Us at masters@societyforscience.org with any questions you might have. All entrants receive a free t-shirt and are automatically entered to win prizes like an iPod Nano or Raspberry Pi, plus the chance to be named one of the top 300 masters or a top 30 finalist. Plus, everyone who enters becomes an alumni and you're invited to special events and more. So let's get down to the top 300 masters. Our top 300 masters are selected by our evaluators and announced on September 6th. 300 masters and their teachers win awards.
Some of these awards include a one-year subscription to Mathematica Plus software, courtesy of our partners at Wolfram Research, an invention journal, and a book about invention stories from the Lemelson Foundation. Teachers win prizes too, like subscriptions to Science News and other prizes from the Lemelson Foundation.
From the top 300 masters, 30 finalists are selected by our judges for an all-expenses-paid trip to Washington, D.C. to present their research and compete in a series of hands-on team challenges. Finalists make friends who also love science. Finalists will be announced on September 20th. And finalists can win a variety of prizes such as iPads, funds to STEM summer camps, and grand awards ranging from $7,500 to our top prize, the Samueli Foundation Prize of $25,000. The biggest prize is making new friends and building a network of fellow science enthusiasts. Broadcom Masters, top 300 masters, entrants, and nominees make us very proud through their creativity, ambition, and eagerness to change the world through STEM. Now, let's take some questions. If you guys have questions, use the live chat box on the right hand of your screen.
Okay, great. We have our first question from Yamu Tamu, and I'm going to read the question and provide an answer. The question is, I'm wondering what the judging criteria to get into the top 300 and top 30 is, and how much the essay/personal questions weigh into the judges' decisions. So this is a great question. And I'll start by answering the first part about the judging criteria to get into the top 300 and top 30. So unfortunately, we do not share this judging criteria. It's privileged information. But what I would recommend to you, which is what I would recommend to all students, is to be as thorough as possible in your answers. In general, our judges are looking for creativity. They're looking for problem solvers who are thinking outside the box. And they're also looking for people who understand the reasons behind their science. So you really want to try to answer why you made certain decisions about your project when you built your experimental design or you made your engineering design, and being able to explain the why behind the project is very important. The second part of your question, how much do the essay or personal questions weigh into the judges' decisions? Very much, they're just as important as the project. So the project gets you nominated, right? You go to your science fair, present your project, it's awesome. The judges pick it to come to Broadcom Masters as a nominee. Then after that, every step of the process, your project counts for less and less because it takes you all the way to the top. It still counts for a whole lot at the application stage, don't get me wrong, but we also consider the personal essays as just as important. And some of the essay questions are actually about your project if you take a look.
Our next question is from Matthew. He asks, can we continue working on our project up until we submit our application? The answer is yes, you can continue working on your project as long as the intent of your project doesn't change. So you can continue to run trials of the same thing. You cannot change the intent of your project, if that makes sense.
And the other thing I would add to that is that you still need to keep following rules for safety. So if you have permission to do things for a certain amount of time, you might want to check in and email us to make sure it's okay. We're happy to look at your requests if you email masters@societyforscience.org.
We also have another question from Yamu Tamu, and he says, do we need to make a trifold? So the answer is
no.
No, not to
yet.
Be an applicant. We would advise that you save your project board for the project that got you nominated in case you need to reference it again. But you do not need to make a trifold. Scott Tobin asks, can we revise the abstract and other official paperwork? You can definitely revise your abstract. By official paperwork,
do you mean like permission forms from subjects, or do you mean like your conclusion section on your science board? So we're waiting for Scott, but we'll go ahead and answer that question. So you can revise your abstract, as Erin said, that's fine. You also can certainly edit your descriptions and your analysis and your conclusions. You might have to even to properly answer the questions in our application. The application questions that are about your project are designed to feel like a judging interview. So you kind of go through the full process of how you came up with your idea, what you thought would happen, test this and why, what your results were, what you think they mean, and then so you can certainly edit the sections that maybe were on your science fair board and change them a little bit if you need to make them fit the questions we're asking. But in terms of official paperwork, like for permissions to work with animals or something like that, please do not edit that. We need to see what you actually were approved to do. Okay, so your question, you would like to conduct more trials which may contain petri dish cultures. Yes, you would want that's fine. With your teacher or whoever approved your initial idea first, but that's fine for our purposes. Trials of this same thing just for additional data. do not change anything.
So that means that if you have not before tested things in Petri dishes, you cannot now, because you would need further paperwork, and it sort of changes the intent of your project. Oh, Scott Tobin has one last question.
Okay, we're here. Yeah, so Scott Tobin asks, are abstracts still limited to 250 words? So that's an interesting question for this application, because an abstract is actually optional for Broadcom Masters. In the personal essay section of the application, one of the essays you have to answer, you have two choices per essay that you can select between. One of the choices is an abstract. You can submit your abstract, and yes, it has to be 250 words or less. The other choice is that you can explain your project in a couple of sentences on an elevator, is the premise, an elevator pitch. And I believe that also has to be 250 words. So that's kind of a two-part answer to Scott's question. One, yes, you have to stick to 250 words or less for an abstract, but it doesn't have to be a formal abstract.
Oh, Yamutamu asks, if we have multiple graphs, then do we need to make them small and arrange them to fit the one-page limit? Yes, you do have to make them fit on the one-page limit if you think that they are all important. So if you have 3 graphs or 3 diagrams, you can arrange them in a smaller format so that they fit. If you have multiple graphs that are saying essentially the same thing, it might be more helpful to eliminate one and then make your other graph bigger, but that's totally up to you. The answer is that it just always has to fit on one page. All right, well, we'll always take questions later if you email us at masters@societyforscience.org. Also, our next webinar is going to be on March 22nd, and we'll be having it with 2 of the finalists from this past year, from the 2016.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be really great, so you guys can
hear it from kids just like you who've been through it and can tell you how amazing it is.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks, guys. We really appreciate your joining in to learn a little bit more about Broadcom Masters. We're excited for you, and we wish you the best of luck. See you next time.